In this video, we're going to go through packaging from InDesign. So it's important to know that you can package if you've placed files as links in Illustrator or in Photoshop. However, InDesign is the layout program, and you shouldn't be doing layout in other programs. Photoshop is for editing, creating pixel-based or bitmap artwork and graphics, and Illustrator is for vector artwork and graphics. So ideally your workflow is that you create those images and pieces in the appropriate programs and you place them into InDesign for your layout. So the word place is important. That means that InDesign is dependent on its links. So in my links panel I can see that I have 29 images placed in this document, which is several pages long. I've also got this typeface. So this type family I downloaded from Google Fonts, so I know this not on other computers. So because fonts are software, I need to make sure that whoever I send this file to, even if it's myself in the future that is backing it up, I need to make sure I include the fonts. Otherwise, if I just save an InDesign file, it's probably going to get moved and it's going to lose its ability to find the links which are elsewhere on your hard drive, and maybe you reinstall things on your computer and you don't have the font, so you're just going to get more errors. So you always want to package a file if you're going to turn it in. So anytime you do a project in InDesign, you're actually going to hand in a package folder, which is what we're going to create in this video. You're never just going to hand in an InDesign file. It's going to be almost worthless to the person who's looking at it because it doesn't have any links, or there's a good chance it doesn't have your fonts unless you're using something really common. The other time you might want to package is if you're sending something to a commercial printer and they request your working or native files. So usually a properly made PDF is enough, but every now and then there's a legitimate case for this. I always kind of have my misgivings about it, but it will inevitably happen. Also, if you're working in a team environment, you might need to package something up if you're moving on to a different project, or if you're an intern, you reach the end of your internship. They want those files usable, they want to keep them around, package them, and leave them behind. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is go to File, Package, and that's what starts this whole process. So I have an error here because this is a print document. I just used the default letter size setup. And the images are in RGB, so you should only use RGB if it's going to be something only ever on screen, or if it's something you're just gonna, you might send it to the laser copier or something, that's fine. If you're sending this to a commercial printer, like it's going to be printed on, postcards or brochures or signs or anything, it really should be CMYK unless they tell you otherwise. So if you're in graphic design and typography, RGB is fine. Later classes, we're going to make you change this to CMYK. But this is just going to be on screen. I might print it out once or twice on laser printer, so that's fine. I don't have any other errors, so I'm going to click Package. And it wants me to save it before it starts making copies. So I'm going to hit Save. So it saved it wherever its actual location is on my computer. Printing instructions I've only ever used once. It just lets you put in some contact, ownership, and instruction information. So there's no way to skip this. So I'm just going to click Continue, and then I will delete it later. So if your window looks tiny like this, click this down arrow. And I usually just make my packages on my desktop, because if I'm making a package, I'm usually going to make a zip file of it and send it out, or I'm going to copy it to an external hard drive, or going to put it up in OneDrive or like another cloud service. So I'm usually just going to move it, and then I usually actually just delete it. So I'm just going to put it on my desktop so it's easy to find. I can get right at it, no problem. So I'm just going to edit the name a little bit and call it whatever you want. I usually do leave the word folder in there, or you could change that to package, just so you know at a glance that this is a packaged InDesign InDesign project and you shouldn't be messing with it. So that's a good practice. So it's on my desktop. Down here at the bottom we have some options. We definitely want to copy our fonts and links. So as I said before, is making copies, so you got to be careful. You know, you don't want too many copies of things. You're not going to lose track of what's most recent. But you also want your InDesign file to be supported because it is dependent on those links. So I do want to copy these things so that the person who opens the InDesign file later is not left out in the cold. And I'm going to also tell it to update the graphic links in the package. So this tells the copy of the InDesign file that ends up in this folder we're making that it just needs to look within its own links folder and not back to my hard drive for the links. So this makes sense because it's not portable. If it's somebody has to open the InDesign document and immediately just relink all your links, that's pretty rude. I'm going to click these last two. I have never used them. And this option here is usually checked. So IDML is InDesign markup language, and that lets your InDesign file, your INDD file, be backward compatible. Adobe is kind of famous for being really terrible about backward compatibility. So that means that here I'm running Adobe CC 2017. If I gave this to somebody who just had Adobe CC 2015, they could not open my INDD file. But if I gave them the IDML file in this package, they'd be fine. So IDML goes back a couple of versions, and if you're going to send this to anyone who's not yourself, I would absolutely include IDML. That's because there's still a lot of copies out there of Adobe CS6, which is the last time you could just buy the software without having to pay the CC monthly subscription. And there's a great economic reason for that. If they owned it, why should they pay more for the new version? The old one works just fine. So I'm going to leave that checked to pretend I'm sending this out to a printer or something like that who might have CS6. And last, include PDF. So if you need a PDF that has crop marks and bleeds and everything, you either need to make a new PDF preset, which you can look up elsewhere. I'm not going to cover that in this video, so that you can choose it here, or you just need to go to File Export from InDesign and just make that PDF separately and chuck it in the folder. So I'm just going to use high quality print because I don't need bleeds on this. It's just a syllabus, or it's just an assignment where I don't need bleeds on it. It's going to be fine. So I'm going to click Package, and it's going to give me one more box to click through. So this is basically just saying make sure that you are allowed to copy these fonts. So fonts are software, and they all have license agreements. So I know that the Google fonts that I downloaded have a open font license, and I'm allowed to do this. So you might run into problems with fonts from like 1001 Fonts or DeFont or even demo fonts from some more well-known font sites. And that's because they, either by accident in the case of DeFont or on purpose in the case of the demos, they don't allow them to be copied through this package process, so you're still going to end up with missing fonts. So in that case, you should make them outlines and then package that file. So the type won't be editable anymore, but packaging makes copies, so you have a copy. Alright, so I'm kind of done with InDesign, so I'm just going to shift that to the side. And here is my folder. So if I open that up, there's the high quality print PDF that I made. Here's a copy of the InDesign file. Here's the IDML file, so this is necessary for the old versions of InDesign. And they make a links folder with copies of all 29 of those images. So again, you don't want to keep doing this, or you're going to fill up your hard drive in no time. And then here's a folder with a copy of all the relevant fonts. So you'll also notice that this only takes the styles you use. So if I used Roboto Condensed Bold in this project, and I wanted to change that, I would still have to go download the whole font family and fix that. So it's not just going to take the whole type family because you use some of the styles, it's only taking the styles that you actually used. Here are those printing instructions. You should just delete those. So now I'm ready to go. I could drag this to my external hard drive or my cloud backup. If you need to make a zip file, you right or control click on the folder and say compress, and that will make it into a zip file, and then either by folder or zip file, you're all ready to go.